Hey, how you guys doing? I'm Tarnish. This is the MMO Avengers channel. The whole point of the channel is to bring awareness to the new MMO creators and to really point out the pros and the cons of these new MMOs. I feel like the MMO community is slowly dying, and the only way we can save it is we come together and to really help these developers out and really give them positive and critical feedback on some of these MMOs coming out. Again, I'm Tarnish. I'm an avid MMO RPG player. I have a lot of experience with theme park MMOs. Always enjoyed the sandbox MMOs and survival games. But yeah, and let's pass it off to RIcayu to introduce himself.
Hey guys, I am Rick or RIcayu, and same as Tarnish. I have been playing MMOs for many years, and this is ranging from Star Wars to, of course, World of Warcraft. Who hasn't dabbled in that one, right? Even down just the fun things like Minecraft. Had my own server once upon a time, but I love healing in MMO, so that's where a lot of my perspective comes from. But we're really looking forward for you joining the team. So it's not just a channel for Tarnish and myself. But just like Tarnish was hitting on, you are a part of the Avengers as well. And we want you to join us to help save MMOs with your voice, with your concerns, with your comments. Because if we do band together, guys, we're gonna make a difference, and we have a voice. And we do make a stand for what we really care about, what we want to see, and we want the MMO creators to really produce the best games. And so we want to give them some accountability. So that's what we're here for, and that's what this channel is here for.
So I think it's really important to distinguish why we're giving feedback now instead of just waiting until the game
Yep.
comes out. The reality is right now it's an alpha. Right now is a perfect time to give feedback because they can actually change it. A lot of times people give feedback, but it's already in a phase where it would break too many systems if they fixed it. So you want to give feedback when as soon as you can, really. So if you see a system that's broken or it's not working right, or you think there could be a lot of issues or can be exploited, or maybe an add-on could do it better, this is definitely the time to give feedback.
But I think one of the things that we looked at was that 20% of the instances are going to be, they're going to like the dungeons are going to be instanced, 80% are going to be open world. And I think, Tarnish, you want to talk about your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So as obviously, I'm a huge PvE nerd. I've ran a top US guild in World of Warcraft and in Star Wars: The Republic. I've tackled the hardest content in both those games. Not to mention, with a casual amount of time, we only rated 1 to 2 days a week, and we were able to see the hardest content in the game and conquer it. So obviously, with our aging community, like we don't have as much time to put into the game anymore. This is a recurring thing I'm noticing, that we're all getting older. We're the same people getting older. There's definitely some newer people coming in, some new generation, but majority of us are still playing the game from back when we were 15. Like we're still here. We're still playing. We're still trying to do what we always have done, but we just don't have the time, right? We have kids, we have families, we have jobs. So it's easy to find people who want to raid but at a competitive level with but only a couple of days of availability. So when you want to say that only 20% of the instanced dungeons and raids are only 20% of them are instanced, and then on top of that, some of them cater to solo quest lines and group quest lines. So that means there's less than 20% that are just actual, just instance dungeons that you can go do. This means that being contested by any world PvP is going to not only hurt uh, the PvE content, but the those who are trying to achieve those wonderful titles and wonderful trophies that you have in the game. When you're being contested and you're limited on time, this really puts a huge kink into the majority of the player base that wants to do PvE content. And I don't know anyone that's completely. There's very few of us that are completely anti PvP. We all tend to want to PvP a little bit, and we don't mind it. But when you get to the point where I'm trying to kill a boss and you have a rogue camping my healer, or you have a few group of them just, or the worst part is once your tank, they're all camping the tank and you need the tank. There's no way you can go into a dungeon without a tank. So you're waiting for your tank, but he's getting camped. So then the whole raid's out there fighting some other raid just to get their tank. And then it's an hour later, you get into the dungeon and like, oh, well, we only got an hour left, boys. We got to get it done. And what that does is it really hurts the PvE community, really. So I was hoping that, now obviously it's a percentage. So 20% or whatever, say it's 18%. Let's say there's a million dungeons. Okay, that's plenty of PvE content. But the reality is, I don't think it's going to be a ton of dungeons. I don't think it's going to be an absurd amount of them. And then on top of that, what are the difficulty levels, right? And this is where the PvE content and the PvE community, like this is where we need to be heard, is we want to down hard content. Hard content cannot be contested because then you can't really clear or down it, right? Unless you want to repeat of what happened in Classic WoW and their world bosses, which is completely horrible. Like no one enjoyed that more than 15 minutes. And then what happens is the world bosses don't really get done because then no one wants to fight for them for 4 or 5 hours. Especially, I said, think about the PvE community. There's a lot of us that are casual. We can only play a couple days a week, and we only got a couple hours. So we log on to fight for a boss we never get a chance to kill. Like that's bad for the PvE community. One of the other topics it would be the raid sizes. The good thing is they're very flexible on this. They're saying there's content for, I think it's 8, 16, and then 40. So there's a lot going on there. I would prefer for the raids to be a little bit smaller. Obviously, they have a huge group size. A typical group size is supposed to be 8 players. So I'm fine with that. It's unique. It's interesting. They have a lot of support. There's a lot of different support classes they can pick from. It was one of all the classes. There's a lot of unique different classes and combinations you can pick, which I really like. My question is if we're even going to be able to see them with the way the rest of the game plays out. Because if you're PvP minded, knowing that you're going to be contested around every corner, you have to really think about how you're going to build and play your character, which means full on healers may not be a thing. It means full on tanks might not be a thing. Likely not. The likeness of finding a healer or a tank is going to be very rare. So, how are these bosses going to be tuned? Are you going to need full on tanks to do it? And then, if you do have full on tanks, those people need to be completely babysat anywhere they go because they're not going to be able to defend themselves. So, there's a lot of questions I have, and like, and this isn't pre-alpha, guys. So, a lot of this could change. A lot more development, more information could come out and be like, oh, okay, this works a little bit differently. But just from like I said, from a top end raid leader looking in on this, there's a lot of things I've seen that I have a lot of questions and concerns about. Um, it just, I want to see those hybrids. I want to see how it works. I want to see bards. I want to see these cool classes, the cool support classes, similar to what we had in Classic with shamans, where they didn't do the most damage. But they healed a little bit. They brought totems, which increased everyone else's damage. It'd be cool to see more classes like that. That they're not here to be the top DPS, not here to be the top healer. They're here to bring buffs and other things, but also do some damage and some healing. And on top of that, on top of everything I just said, there's also the issue of meters, knowing what you're doing, knowing how you're going to be able to affect the raid your group, and seeing what kind of impact you truly are having on your group and your team. That's where the biggest joy comes from playing the support classes, is seeing how your support actually is affecting your group. And I'm not saying you can't 100% tell that you're helping. I'm sure when you pop Aura Mastery in World of Warcraft, you definitely know that you're reducing damage to the group. But having some kind of meter or live action ability to be like, oh wow, okay, so I really saved us when I popped that cooldown at that time. It really made a huge difference. And as much as you could say, oh, you can sit there and just watch. And I played Conan Exiles, I played Black Desert Online, I played all these open world, I played Arc. The reality of it is simple. Like, if you don't have a meter to base it off of, the amount of time and effort combined with the fact that we're trying to be competitive and have fun and really be able to justify bringing everything and experiencing everything, the meters are going to help us get across that very easily. And without having that, it's hard for us to say we're going to have competitive, high end, and really difficult rating counters if we don't even know what kind of effect half our classes are doing or having an effect of. So I have so much to say about PvE content. Like, I could literally talk probably for another 3 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and pass off to you, Rick.
So I do remember doing world bosses in many games actually, and especially in a PvP environment where suddenly another tribe or another group rolls up on you and you're like, it's hell. It's terrible. They target me. I'm just like trying to like kill and keep everyone happy, and I'm working my little butt off, and like it's actually, I'm one of the first targets in that environment. But the problem is Tarnish is right in that open world dungeons could be very sketch, to say the least. So I think having a row kind of waiting for you at the end, you finally get there, and then we finally made it, and then both of our healers get killed, and then we're trying to get them back. Then another group comes in, and then we're competing with them. We race to the end. We're like trying to get there. Oh, and it's already cleared. Sorry, someone did it like an hour ago. So now you just wasted all that time. Try again tomorrow or an hour later. So I think there's a lot of issues that could arise that just wouldn't be fun. So I think that I love the idea of having PvP. It's open world, that's great. But I don't know if it's going to work as effective to have almost every bit of your PvE in the open world. Now, I know that there are balances for PvP to try to, and we kind of talked about like just being there. Basically, you have actually. Do we want to? Are we talking about the corruption? Is that next? Is this a good segue into that, or is that later?
Sorry, I got a new mic. Yeah, we are going to be PvP next. If you have something that you think could
Sure.
help,
Yeah.
yeah, I think the corruption system should probably be presented so people have more of an idea of what is there to counterbalance some of the issues that we're concerned about.
Yeah. I don't think it should be so hard to do PvE content. It's looking like that's the challenge right now if that's what I want to do. PvP, the sky's the limit. I can almost do anything in this game. PvE, we're finding some ways that maybe PvP can interrupt that process and interrupt that flow. And that would definitely be unfortunate.
Yeah, and again, I'm a little biased. I tend to really like the PvE community. I started off as a PvPer, but once I got into PvE, it became so much fun, and I created some of the longest lifetime relationships through raiding. So I have people that I've been friends with for 10 years, 15 years just from raiding. And really, I noticed the consistency with raiders where PvPers aren't always as consistent. Because PvPers, there's nothing keeping you here for the next week or the next thing. It's something you're preparing for next season or whatever the case may be. You just show up, you kill people, you have a good time. It's very simple. But the raiding, it's more complicated. You have consumables, you have buffs, you have raid comps, raid compositions, people, relationships, alliances, right? That are normal. Like I used to discuss raid strategies with other raid leaders. Once we got our server first kills, I had no problem. Or once the server first races were over, I had no problem releasing strategies or helping other guilds out. But there's always been relationships, right? So sometimes there's guilds I hated. There were competitors, and sometimes there's guilds that I didn't mind. I didn't mind helping them out. They give me a BOE or two, and I'd help raid lead for them, or I would give them some secrets or some tips. I had my guildies write guides for their players, whatever the case may be. But the reality is PvE suffers too much. There's going to be a big issue with consistency. PvP players, and this isn't a dig at PvP players. I used to be one. We're very inconsistent. Like we'll play this game today, that game tomorrow, come back to this game, then go back to the other game. Like we're all over the place because we're just going for the next thrill, right? And some people do stick to one game. They play that one game over and over again, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But for the bulk of the community, I want to say that a little bit more casual, and the fact that they'll play for a couple of weeks and they're gone for a couple of weeks and they're back for a couple of weeks, where the raiders are always there every week doing their raid, trying to gear up, trying to craft the next material, trying to prepare for the following raid. And with this game is a lot of systems that I think are really, really cool. They have trophies, they have titles, they have castles, so you can guild halls, they have all these wonderful things, but achieving them seems very, very difficult. And I'm not saying difficult in a good way, like the way that raiders would want it to be difficult. I'm saying difficult as in the fact of just accessing the content. Accessing the content is becoming a kind of a difficult thing. And I could be completely wrong on this. Maybe we go in there and we just stomp it, right? And not only that, but it's easy to control. Maybe PvP isn't as effective, but if it's tuned the way I think it should be tuned, I think it will be a problem. I think it's going to affect how people build. I think it's have a hard effect on the population and community on how they build their character and what characters they play versus what they want. and that's going to really hurt, I think, the immersion of the game, which is something I know they really care about. But if you're too busy trying to play this specific build because you know you're going to PvP a lot, you could hurt the PvE community in that way. It just simply we're not seeing enough shamans. We're not seeing enough other things. Just keep throwing shit, Rick.
Sorry, a cat's going where it's not supposed to. So
real life PvP right there,
yes.
boys. Real life.
Sorry. My aim was perfect. I landed on the sofa.
Got that skill shot.
Landed on the sofa next to the cat, so that way it kind of startled it, and then it got off the table like it wasn't supposed to.
Thank you for watching the clip from our AoC podcast. Feel free to click the link in the description to watch the full podcast.